government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Monday, February 11th, 2019, start of a brand new week here, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room ready to answer the phone, get you on the air with your comments, questions, and observations. And before we get into the news, I wanted to acknowledge that I got more than a few emails over the weekend about this monstrous storm that we had out here, and a lot of people were very concerned, and it was a pretty rough storm, but it was mostly hitting the north-facing sides of the islands, and they had 60-foot waves up at Waimea, and huge winds in some places. In fact, they recorded a record wind burst of 191 miles an hour up at Mauna Kea, where all the observatories are. And the storm brought a lot of snow to the state. And in fact, it's thought that it's the lowest slow elevation in the state's history. So it was a pretty intense little storm. That being said, where Claire and I were, we didn't get that much. Yeah, we got some wind. We got some rain. We did have a couple of blackouts, but not like some of these other people. But again, thanks for everybody who emailed in their concern. And but we're in good shape. We're in really, really good shape. Okay, let's get into the news here, and we are going to start, of course, with Venezuela, where Senator Mark Rubio is out there literally telling the people of Venezuela that they have two choices. They can overthrow their government or they can starve. And it's becoming very obvious what a warmongering country the United States has become, and how utterly ruthless and a callous disregard for human life, and apparently a complete lack of concern for how the rest of the world thinks about us. Because, early in this pattern of regime change, they would go to great lengths to hide it, to make it look like it was an organic grassroots movement that was taking place, like they did in Iran and then in Chile. No more. Nope. They just show up, knock on the door, and say, you get out. We're going to come in and put a new president. So it's looking at all the death and destruction. And neocons are out there saying, well, it's really the fault of these countries for resisting us. And it's their fault. They made us come on in and kill those people. Anyway, now a lot of people are looking at what's going on in Venezuela and thinking that the U.S. may have acted a little too precipitously, that they may have called a little too much attention to what they were doing. And it's drawn the criticism of the world. You have quite a few countries who are saying, no more foreign interventions here. And right now, you've got Russia, China, Iran, and Turkey are all out there saying, no, this we can't do this. And Russia is promising to support Venezuela. So we're going to have another Syria on our hands, or maybe worse. According to this article out of Zero Hedge, Pepe Escobar is asking, are the neocons ready for their tropical Vietnam? And everybody keeps bringing up references to Vietnam, and it is legitimate, both because we did lose that one, no other way to say it, and because it's a jungle environment, and historically the United States military has never done well in jungle environments. Another article, this one from Global Research up in Canada, Venezuela, the straw that breaks the empire's back. And they're talking about how the corporate media, it's just this constant flow of outright lies and half-truths, fake news, just trying to sell the American people, yes, let's send your children on into Venezuela. And yes, some of them may die, but that's a sacrifice we are willing to make. And, it's all about oil, it's all about gold. And also just because Washington, D.C. Wants control over the South American continent, so they can go back to worrying about Russia, China, and Iran here. Another point of view comes out of this article in Zero Hedge. Venezuela is an opportunity for Russia and China to change the world. Now, nothing better illustrates Washington's true opposition to democracy and self-determination than what they're doing down in Venezuela, where they go on in, they take this mid-level opposition figure, and he's anointed the new president of Venezuela. And the United States says, yes, up here in exceptional stand, we think he should be the president. Now, Washington's been trying to overthrow the Venezuelan government for years. We've been talking about it. Actually, it's more like decades. And Washington wants the state-owned oil company to be privatized so it can fall into the hands of U.S. oil corporations. That would ensure Washington's control over Venezuela. Transferring the wealth out of the country would prevent any economic development from inside the country. Every aspect of the economy would end up in the hands of U.S. corporations. The exploitation would be ruthless and brutal, as it has been in all of those other regime-changed countries: Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, and so forth. Now, the Venezuelans understand this. They're very well educated down there. They understand global geopolitics. And they've seen what the United States has done to all these other countries, whether it was Iran or Chile or any of them. And that is why the United States is having a less than a sterling success in trying to get the Venezuelan people or the military to desert Maduro. They understand, as bad as things are with Maduro, if Maduro goes, things will get worse, because that is what always happens in the wake of a U.S.-backed regime change. Look at Ukraine as one example here. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. We're talking about affairs in Venezuela. And yet another pessimistic view of what's going on is coming out of FARS News, saying that Washington's perilous regime change in Venezuela won't work out as planned. And it's a destructive path. And it's going to be another humanitarian disaster. And it could be another geopolitical disaster like Afghanistan. They're having to admit they failed there. And at some point, they're going to have to look in a mirror and say, we failed in Syria. So why, oh why, when your batting average is that low, would you be getting ready to go into Venezuela and anger China and Russia? Okay, let's take a phone call from Ken in Michigan. Aloha, Ken. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. Listen, when you were saying about the troops going into Venezuela, it reminds me of the movie Shrek, when Lord Farquaad was talking to his knights about going on a quest. Some of you may die, but that's a choice I'm willing to make.
Yeah, that's why I got the line. I stole it outright. I admit it.
Yeah, when you said it, I'm like, that sounds awfully familiar.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Yeah, but it perfectly expresses the attitude of our leadership. You know, we're going to start this war. We're going to go grab the Venezuela's oil for U.S. oil corporations, and some of you are going to get killed, but hey, those are the breaks. You know, we've run it out on a spreadsheet. We see it as worth the cost.
Oh, absolutely. And that whole movie pretty much explains the United States government.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean,
that's all I had,
there's a lot of very subtle political commentary in there.
Aloha. You have a great one.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. Now, interestingly enough, in an exclusive interview with Claudia Salerno Caldera, the Venezuelan ambassador to the European Union, a Deutsche Welle reporter asked how long she imagined the embattled Venezuelan president Maduro could hold on to his position. She responded, 6 years, I hope, because that is what the people voted for. So, Maduro is now asking OPEC to denounce the U.S. sanctions on Venezuela. And the U.S. is continuing to try and pile more and more pressure on Venezuela. And Total CEO Patrick Pouyanné expressed his belief on Monday the French oil corporation could continue functioning in crisis toward Venezuela despite sanctions imposed by Washington. He added that Total will analyze the situation before reaching a decision. The United States has announced they're going to start cracking down on OPEC for whatever reason. And it really is all coming down to all these sanctions. And the United States is out there saying, you're trying to evade our sanctions. It's showing a lack of respect. Like respect the throne, respect the crown. How dare you? Well, we're still a planet of, for the most part, independent nations. And the governments of those independent nations have to make decisions based on what is best for them. Now, Maduro has responded to Pompeo's charge that Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda and ISIS and whatever are operating inside of Venezuela. He says it's completely nonsense. It's proven lies. And he says we do not have any political relations with the Hezbollah political party. He says there are many Lebanese living in Venezuela, but they're just, living their lives and going about their business. Pompeo's allegation had also hinted at Iranian connections. Ooh, Iran is down. See, we just have to invade Venezuela because all the bad guys are down there. Now, this did not happen overnight. Apparently, back in 2014, during the Obama administration, there was this NGO called the National Endowment for Democracy in Venezuela, which basically was tasked with stirring up the population against the legitimate government. And doesn't look like they've done as well as they might here. The other aspect, of course, of Venezuela is economic, and the corporate media is saying, well, it was Maduro's socialist government that has completely impoverished the country, and that's why he's got to go. Well, modern monetary theory says otherwise. Venezuela's problems are not the result of the government issuing money and using it to hire people to build infrastructure, provide essential services, and expand economic development. If it were, unemployment would not be at 33% and climbing. Venezuela has a problem the U.S. does not have and will never have. It owes massive debts in a currency it cannot print itself, namely U.S. dollars. Now, when oil was booming, Venezuela was able to meet its payment schedule. But when oil plummeted and the government was reduced to printing Venezuelan bolivars and selling them for U.S. dollars on international currency exchanges, as speculators drove up the price of dollars, more and more printing was required by the government, deflating the national currency. That's where it comes from. It's not internal inflation. It's servicing that imposed foreign debt. It's the same thing that happened in Weimar Germany and Zimbabwe. And it's part of economic predation here. Now, just to give you an idea of the stunning hypocrisy of the U.S. government, the U.S. is out there limiting, human rights in Venezuela. Oh, my goodness, it's so terrible. We have to go on in and make sure their human rights are protected. Meanwhile, right next door, U.S. allied Colombia is descending into this drug-fueled humanitarian crisis. So it's another reminder that expressing concern about the people of Venezuela, it's just window dressing. It's all about the oil. It's all about the gold. It's all about controlling what currency the oil is sold for. It's all about plundering another country. Now, over in Syria, the Syrian Democratic Forces, which are not part of the Syrian government, but they're backed by the United States, have announced a final push to retake the jihadi pocket against ISIS here in eastern Syria. And they claim they're clearing the last Daesh village in Syria from the terrorists. And this is the village of Baghouz. Well, okay, if the terrorists are gone, then why is the United States still staying there? All right, let's take another phone call here. This one from Joe in California. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. Yeah, this corporate media is so evil. They continue to put out these lies that the government has created. You know, I watched a program by John Pilger. It was a documentary about how the media dropped the ball, of course, in the run up to the Iraq War in 2003, and he was interviewing one of these British journalists, and the British journalist insisted, "We'll do better next time." Well, what have we seen since then? The same lies.
Yes.
So they'll never change, the corporate media. Please, people, do not believe anything, as you, Mike, have always said. Don't believe anything that comes out of the mouths of these people. Mike, wanted to ask you. You mentioned the drug situation in Colombia.
Yes.
Have you followed or have you read about the Jeffrey McDonald case back in 1970?
Oh boy, that is a while ago. No, I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, that was the case where he was a doctor and he was accused of killing his wife and his two children, and he claimed that it was a group of hippies that did it. I just want to say this, the connection with the drugs. Ted Gunderson, the late FBI agent, actually investigated this on behalf of McDonald. He says that McDonald didn't do it, and there was a drug connection between the hippies because they sold the drugs that were coming in from Vietnam that were planted in the body cavities of the dead soldiers. And he said the reason why the feds, the FBI, they insisted to put the blame on McDonald was if they did accuse this group of hippies, and the evidence is overwhelming that they were in the house, then this drug connection would have come up in the midst of the trial because
And it would have opened up that whole CIA drug smuggling operation.
Right. So I just wanted to ask you if you had heard of that case. I mean, actually, they did an NBC movie. It was Fatal Vision, was the NBC series, and Joe McGinnis did a book. But Joe McGinnis, of course, he claims that McDonald, the husband, did the killing and not these hippies. But I watched the BBC documentary. It's called False Witness on YouTube. Unbelievable. The evidence is overwhelming that these people were in the house. So it's just an interesting story. I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, it's an interesting little flashback. I mean, we remember what happened when Gary Webb blew the lid off the cocaine that was coming into this country from Central America, and they destroyed his career. And then he was killed with 2 bullets in the back of his head and declared a suicide. You know, we're dealing with the world's largest drug smuggling operation, and they have the means to protect it, even if that includes, convicting an innocent man for the murder of his wife and kids.
Right. But wasn't that Denzel Washington movie where he plays a gangster, Frank something, and it was based on a true story? Wasn't this gangster? Wasn't he bringing in, according to the movie, he was bringing in drugs within the bodies of dead American soldiers? Was that Hollywood's way of just diverting people's eyes away from the government doing the very same thing?
Yeah, it is. It is. Just spread the blame around here, and but you have to ask yourself who had access to those bodies, and of course, it was strictly the military.
Right. Oh, Mike, last thing. Webster Tarpley, the historian, I used to have respect for him, but I view him with suspicion now. I watched one of his recent lectures. He claims that Vince Foster was killed. Vince Foster did not commit suicide. Vince Foster was killed, but by the deep state in order to send a message to Bill Clinton. What do you think about that?
I don't think so. It really doesn't make that much sense.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
I think the Clintons were afraid that Vince Foster was going to basically go public on the problems with the Presidential Blind Trust.
Right. I think Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were fully cooperative. They were part of that oligarchic deep state. I don't know why the deep state would need to send Bill Clinton a message.
Yeah, that's why it doesn't make sense. Bill was already there, charter member.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got to take another
Thank you,
break.
Mike.
Got to take a break for commercials. Thank you for the call. We'll be right back.
First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And Poland is going to buy 20 high Mobiliar artillery rocket system launchers from the United States. The State Department just approved the sale, along with all the associated support equipment. The deal is worth an estimated $414 million. And Poland is saying they want it to guarantee the country's security. So everybody's arming up. Everybody knows what's coming here. So speaking of the ceremony in Warsaw, Defense Minister Błaszczak said the purchase of the U.S.-made system would be formalized on Wednesday, with the modern equipment helping to guarantee Poland's security. Anyway, as you know, the United States has been issuing demands for Iran to leave Syria. And Iran, understandably, is out there saying, no. You can't ask us to leave. You must leave. And Iran is calling for the U.S. to withdraw from the region, saying that it is the enemy of, Washington who should go back home. Iran is now marking the 40th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. Apparently, they're feeling their oats. They're starting to talk tough. But you do need to keep something important in mind, and that is that the United States is in Syria uninvited by the Syrian government. They don't have the permission of the Syrian government. They just walked on in and said, we're the United States of America, and we're going to set up military bases here. Ta-da, ta-da. And Iran is saying, Iran was invited in. Iran is there at the invitation of the Syrian government. So is Russia. It's the United States that's the uninvited and unwanted guest. That would be like somebody walking into your house, total stranger. Well, not a total stranger. You maybe see him down the block or something. They come on in and they say, I don't like that person. They should leave. And I don't like that one there. And by the way, that dog is really ugly. Get rid of him. That's how the United States is behaving here. Now, getting on back to Iran, talking tough on the 40th anniversary of the fall of the Shah, Tehran is basically issuing a warning that if the United States attacks Iran, that Iran will retaliate against both Tel Aviv and Haifa. This is coming from the Iranian Islamic Guard commander. So, all it's going to take is one hothead, one mistake, one bad piece of computer software, and it's going to be going. Iran further basically went on to say they are now ready. If the P5+1 deal does collapse, they're ready to go back to 190,000 separative work units of uranium enrichment. And apparently back in January, Ayatollah Khamenei ordered the AEOI, which is the Iranian Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, to prepare for this. And apparently now they're saying, yeah, at any moment we can ramp up enrichment without delay. Now, not sure what Iran is going to do with that because, again, nobody has found any indications they're building a bomb. And they're not enriching to the level required for a nuclear weapon. I think it's just an act of defiance. And who knows, they may commercialize it. Now, the acting head of the Pentagon, Patrick Shanahan, arrived in Afghanistan on a surprise visit. And he's meeting with President Ashraf Ghani, who's the installed U.S. puppet ruler, and who is not part of the talks going on between U.S. and Taliban officials, which everybody is hoping is going to bring a breakthrough in the grinding 17-year conflict. And I can imagine what they're saying around that negotiating table, that the U.S. doesn't have to admit that they lost. They can retire with dignity. Oh, and by the way, we still want that pipeline at the discounted rate. And we love those poppies. We got to keep on having those poppies. That's really what it's going to come on down to. Over in Copenhagen, the mayor of that town has awarded BDS activists for their courage. And the award was presented to activists Ronnie Barkin, Majid Abulasama, and Stavet Sinai, known as Humboldt 3, by Copenhagen's mayor for technical and environmental affairs, Nina Hedriger Olsen, in a ceremony at Copenhagen, say that 3 times fast, City Hall, Thursday. And it's great that we're seeing some positive feedback on BDS after all the negative that has been coming out about it. Now, Ron Paul has come on out talking about this Senate 1 bill that forbids an Israel boycott. And he's asking point blank, is it constitutional? No, of course it isn't. It's an absolute flat violation of the First Amendment, and under Marbury versus Madison, we are free to ignore it. Anyway, we got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be back after these few words.
You are tuned into the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Here we're talking about incidents in and around and concerning Israel. And as you know, Al Jazeera did this documentary on the workings of the Israeli lobby. And one of the things that was revealed, particularly by Chris Hedges, is that pro-Israel groups are faking anti-Semitism on college campuses in order to force the colleges to pass regulations and laws restricting pro-Palestinian support. But it's all a hoax and it's all propaganda. And we've seen it before. You know, Israel's the master of the false flag attack. A group of illegal, fanatic Israeli colonists attacked on Saturday many Palestinian homes in Tel Rumidi neighborhood in the southern West Bank city of Hebron. Apparently, several homes were attacked, and the settlers attempted to gain entry and assault the families. But fortunately, they were met by a crowd of local Palestinians who forced them to leave before they could cause any damage. Other settlers attacked a school near Nablus. This is the Orif Secondary School in Orif Town, again near Nablus, had to shut the school down and sent the students to their home when illegal Israeli colonist settlers attacked it, and Israeli soldiers fired live rounds into the education facility, which is something the United Nations asked Israel to stop doing. because it's disrupting the education process. UNICEF has come on out condemning the Israeli army for the murder of Palestinian children. Apparently, 2 children aged 13 and 17 years old were shot on Friday during the Great March of Return protests. And this brings the number of Palestinian children killed this year to 4, but the year is still young. Benjamin Netanyahu is basically pushing for a new law to confiscate funds allocated by the Palestinian Authority to Palestinians it claims are involved in attacks against Israeli targets. Now, Israel collects tariffs and duties on behalf of the Palestinian Authority and then redistributes the money. But what Netanyahu wants to do is basically say, you cannot give any money to any Palestinians who have been injured or the families of any Palestinians who've been killed by the Israeli forces. So it's just unending cruelty and heartlessness here. Now, Human Rights Watch Middle East Director Sarah Lee Whitson is under fire after claiming Israel is meddling in British domestic politics by summoning a manufactured anti-Semitism crisis. There it is again. It's manufactured. And it apparently began when Asa Winstanley, a journalist for the Electronic Intifada, warned that new accusations would soon rock the UK's Labour Party, which has been dogged by scandals ever since Jeremy Corbyn was elected leader in 2015. And they don't play out. But this is just what Israel supporters do. Oh, you're an anti-Semite. You're an anti-Semite. You're an anti-Semite. You're an anti-Semite. And corporate media will go along with it as if it's an absolute given. And they'll work to destroy somebody just because Israel doesn't like them. Now, here's a very revealing story. This came out at Middle East Monitor. The former Saudi intelligence chief, Turki Al-Faisal, this weekend revealed that secret relations between Israel and a number of Gulf states date back as 25 years, that Israel and Saudi Arabia are actually buddy-buddy. And according to the Qatari newspaper Al Arab, Al-Faisal was interviewed by Israeli journalist Barak Rabid, who claims to have conducted interviews with 20 prominent Gulf officials with knowledge of secret relations with Israel. So, for the last 25 years, Israel has been screaming that they're being threatened by their neighbors, that they're in danger of being attacked. Oh, please, Americans, send us money, send us weapons, send us everything. And now we find out they've been getting along just great all the time. Now, we're hearing 2 competing stories regarding Netanyahu's indictments. We're supposed to be hearing a decision about the indictments being brought down this week. On one hand, you have Netanyahu hiring more lawyers. And then on the other, you've got insiders saying that Netanyahu may be forced to accept a plea deal and resign, that he will step down as prime minister, the indictments will go away. So it's 2 competing points of view. We'll see which one actually works out. Over in France, the Yellow Vest protests are continuing. They're huge. More than 1,000 arrested, hundreds of wounded. Apparently some people were killed. The corporate media was saying, oh, it's just a few protesters. The numbers are going down. This is going away. Go over to Twitter and look for the videos. Hashtag Yellow Vest. Look for the videos, and you will see this thing is still huge. This was across all of France. All of the major cities, the Yellow Vests were out there. Moving out a little bit further to the east, the United States is out there saying China is preparing for World War III. Well, these days everybody is. But a Republican senator, James Imhoff, made the allegation that China's military was preparing for World War III. Well, wouldn't you, if you had a belligerent nation on the other side of the Pacific? But Inhofe came on out and said, it's like you're preparing for World War III. You're talking to our allies over there, and you wonder whose side they're going to be on. Now, according to Inhofe, the U.S. has sat back and watched as China built its military presence in the South China Sea, turning these artificial islands into potential launch pads for its military. But no, the U.S. didn't just set back. Even under Obama, there was an explicit containment strategy that was supposed to enclose and encircle China from all angles. The Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement was part of that. But Trump pulled out of that. And so there we are. Great Britain is sending one of their aircraft carriers. In fact, I think it's the only one they've got. But they're sending it over to China in a show of force. We're going to show you how forceful we are. We've got an aircraft carrier. And the British Defense Chief, Gavin Williamson, came on out saying, we must be ready to use hard power against Moscow and Beijing. So they're getting really, really serious about that. And Moscow basically said, Gavin is just trying to get a larger defense budget. And yeah, military-industrial complex is not confined to the United States. Everywhere where there's a military, they always want more money. And they'll create enemies, or they'll create a threat. Oh my goodness, we have to arm ourselves. Monaco could attack at any time. Now, China is angered because 2 U.S. warships once again have entered the South China Sea. They did so without China's permission. The warships sailed near the islands on the same day that China resumed trade talks with Washington. Now, that strikes me as being not a particularly smart thing to do if you want China to be agreeable at the negotiating table, or somebody in the Pentagon trying to make sure that the trade war goes on. It's a little bit weird. All right, we're going to take a phone call. Peter in Los Angeles, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, just wanted to make a quick point here about the revelations that the Saudi, and not only Saudi but other intelligence agencies, have been partnering with the Israelis for over a quarter of a century, which takes them back, of course, to the early 90s.
Yes.
And I want to point out that, in my opinion anyway, this just reinforces what my theory has been all along, that U.S. neocons and people in the intelligence agencies in the United States, along with the Israelis and the Saudis, did 9/11, and this just makes that even more plausible.
Yes.
So, that was my point. That's really all I really wanted
that's
to
a
say.
valid point that you're making, that if they have had these secret relations on all along, obviously if you're pulling off a gigantic hoax like 9/11, you want to spread it around as much as possible. The Israelis certainly were involved. The Saudis were involved. Could have been other players as well, just trying to keep things confused.
And Mike, if you were going to get a get out of jail free card, like everybody knows, all the Saudis got exfiltrated out of the United States by the Bush administration.
Yes.
And just like Khashoggi has been given right now, the Khashoggi murder has been given a free pass, really. And the Israelis, of course, the dancing Israelis, the art students, all the people involved in what looks like the logistic support of the hijackers that were Israelis, they were whisked out, and no charges on them.
Yep.
There's again, because they give so much money, they own both these people, but especially, I mean, as bad as the Saudis are, they're like the retarded younger brother of the Israeli influence on Congress. But there's never any ramifications ever. So,
Yeah. It's a mess. It is a huge mess, and it's going to. I really do think that unless there is a collapse of the United States government, that we are going to wind up in a full-on global shooting World War III. And that's a depressing thought.
It's hard it's hard to get away from that, Mike. Really.
Yeah.
It really is. We've got people that are controlling our foreign policy that aren't even Americans, and if they are Americans, they don't have our interests at heart. They have Israel's, and we're going to be in a shooting war, and I don't know how we get out of it, but there we go.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go here. Get on back to our news. I have been paying special attention to the latest and not really greatest weapons coming out of the military-industrial complex in the context of how much they cost with an economy that can't support that kind of spending, and poor quality, which calls into question whether they're really going to be effective if we go up against a military peer. Now, the United States military is really good at whooping on some small little Middle Eastern nation that can't really fight back. But when you're talking about going up against Russia and China, or both of them put together, it's a different story. And we've been talking about all the problems with the F-22, the F-35, the Gerald R. Ford, all kinds of problems there. Insiders are saying it may never actually be usable in combat. It may turn it into a training vessel. The Freedom and Independence class littoral combat ships, so many problems. They're just going to scrap them and start over from beginning. Just huge waste of money. And now we come to the latest whiz-bang toy, the Zumwalt Stealth Destroyer, which is very expensive and doesn't really seem to have a clear mission. Now, in the past, weapons platforms were tailored to a specific mission. Interdiction, littoral combat, anti-submarine, anti-air, ground assault, whatever. But one of the problems is that the ship, they lack ammunition for their guns. That contract was canceled because the ammo was special high-tech ammo was too expensive. It lacks anti-ship missiles. It lacks anti-submarine torpedoes and long-range area air defense missiles. So with the third of these ships getting ready to launch and the second one about to be christened, the Navy has finally decided that the job of the Zumwalt will be surface strike, in other words, hunting down other ships. Now, to me, that shows utter chaos in the early conceptual planning of this platform. That they just said, let's just put this thing together, we'll spend a lot of money, we'll put it together, it'll be cool, and we'll figure out what we're going to do with it later. And this is so much like that storyline on that movie, The Pentagon Wars, where it starts out as this little tiny, inexpensive troop transport, and then everybody gets involved and says, well, we need to put a turret, and we need a gas gun, and we need this Bushmaster rifle, and we need more armor, and we need this, and turned it into this bloated, costly behemoth. So that's how the military-industrial complex works. And it's been that way even before Eisenhower identified it as such. I mean, Harry Truman, before he became president, he became quite famous for taking on military contractors who were overpriced and under-delivering, and he made a real big stink about it. And that's what really made him a household name. All right, turning to the domestic politics, the talks to prevent yet another government shutdown appear to be falling apart. And according to reports, Democrat lawmakers are now seeking concessions on how immigration and customs enforcement conducts the business of enforcing the law, not just at the border, but for those already in the country illegally. And Pelosi is still out there saying no wall. So what is going on over there? Well, according to Tom Homan, former ICE director, he's saying the Democrats are trying to make this entire country a sanctuary for illegals. They want ICE to go away or to be so hamstrung they can't possibly do anything. And the illegals are going to pour on in and vote Democratic. And they will vote themselves your country with the assistance of the Democrats. So it looks like they wanted to have an agreement today to have Congress rush it through before Friday. Looks like that's not going to happen. So Trump is either going to go ahead with his national emergency, or he can cave, or we're going to have another government shutdown. If I were advising Donald Trump, I would say declare the national emergency, use the DOD money to build the wall, sign the bill to keep the government running, and then everybody's going to be happy, except, of course, for the open borders people. All right, we got to take a break for commercials. We got a caller waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
Extendivite, made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle, feeds our body with the nutrients we need to keep healthy. Just listen to what Arthur had to say.
I was just telling you, tell you what a great product you have. I had used this about 10 years ago after I had congestive heart failure. And it fixed me up and got me going for the last 10 years. Lately, I've been having heart trouble again, so I placed another order because this was the only thing that ever worked. I just wanted to let you know that you have a great product. Thank you very much.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're going to go to the phones here to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, I wanted to start with Trump first. If he doesn't do anything with this shutdown or national then it's finished because he has nothing else. There's nothing else that he's done that's completed, right?
Yeah.
No infrastructure, no nothing.
you know. And then, Mike, I wanted to talk about, you know, remember in the speech he said, like, this country will never be socialist? But we kind of are already, right? We got Social Security, right? You got,
yeah. Well,
you know,
I think
I mean,
we're more fascist than socialist.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean, though. Like, like, in order to get around and move around, you need a car, and you need car insurance. Well, that's kind of like socialism. Everybody puts into the kitty, right? And if you get in an accident, but also, Mike, didn't he give the bailout to the farmers to bail them out for the sanctions he put against China, which he created in the first place? Him and his, you know, his. It blows my mind just how, you know. Yeah, I mean, I know what he, like full socialism and stuff, but some parts of socialism is not bad. You know,
well,
I
you
mean,
know, that's
like,
the way most of Europe operates. I mean, they're considered socialist countries, but they're not like hardcore communists the way the Soviet Union was. There's still individual liberty, and, you know, if you're willing to work hard, you can improve your standard of living. You're not just held down by this mandated equality.
Yeah, I mean, definitely fascist we are because, like, more because of the bailout of Wall Street and the bankers.
Yes.
You know, we got the bill. You know, and, you know, to this day, I still say, Mike, where is the tax breaks for the regular common American who don't have stock portfolios?
They didn't.
You know what
happen.
I mean? Like,
they didn't happen.
I don't think they ever will. I
Nope.
really don't. I don't think these people look at the world like at us like that anymore. You know. But Mike, I want to switch gears to Venezuela. Did you talk about there was some pictures posted of they're moving some S-125, which I would too, you know, anti-aircraft missile batteries around and their launchers. And also they brought out the S-300VN unit on an Air Force base. So they're moving stuff around, but I still don't think there's going to be an invasion per se. It'll more be like an internal type of special forces.
I really think that America would not put up with another full-on frontal war going into yet another jungle. But the possibility of a decap strike or of finding somebody already within Venezuela to arm. Remember that cache of weapons that was discovered flown in from Miami. And Maduro, of course, is convinced that all of these trucks with U.S. humanitarian aid are actually weapons and ammunition.
And then I want to switch to China, Mike, with the South China Sea. That's all about the Belt and the Road, because what we're trying to do now, but it's too late, is try to, like, constrain. Oh, sorry.
Okay, stay on the line. Stay on the line. We're going to come right back after station identification.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs, memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're
listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Dustin in New Jersey. We're talking about China. We're talking about all this stink face that's going on. And basically, the United States wants to control the entire Pacific Ocean. And they want to contain China. They want to basically sort of get inside that circle that's sort of made up by the Japanese islands and the Asian Peninsula and China, because it forms its own little discrete body of water. And of course, it's wide open, with all sides. But the United States wants to consider it theirs, because it allows them to control the sea lanes of communication, which in turn allow them to control access to resources. And that's really where a lot of that is going to go. And of course, to control access to markets.
Belt in the road.
Yes.
Mike, that's what you constrain China economically and militarily, but a lot of people don't know this. China's got a bigger Navy than we do now.
Yes.
It might not have all the aircraft carriers yet, but they will. But you know how you defeat aircraft? Look at how many ships, surface ships, you need and subs to protect one aircraft carrier.
Yes.
Well, what happens if that aircraft carrier gets taken out with a cheaper missile like the DF-21,
Or
and
the
all
Silkworm.
those ships are useless? Yeah, or those ships are useless then, really?
Yeah,
they're not really.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the military-industrial complex keeps refining and refining and refining the model that worked in the last World War. And China and Russia have been thinking outside the box, and they've come up with these amazing weapons that are designed specifically to evade and bypass U.S. current defense doctrine.
And Mike, if you look, we're all in a recession. If you look at the way our rate of, going in terms of economic, we're only, I don't think we're really going at all, but they say 2%. But the Chinese are like 7%. And if you look, over 30 years, look how quick they rose. They use more concrete in 20 years than we use in 100.
That Three Gorges Dam is just an amazing piece of engineering.
It's just you're not going to stop them. That's it. You can do all these tricks with Huawei, right? Kidnapping his daughter and all that because it's more powerful. That company's more popular. Well, sales-wise, is more than Apple now.
Yes.
Right under Samsung. But I'm saying that's where the trend is heading. If you look at the trends, where it's cheaper product, right? The Huawei phone, and it's the same quality. Pretty much,
And
but,
the NSA can't listen into it.
Yeah, but you notice that Huawei, are they even in the United States to sell phones? They're not allowed, right?
I think their phones are available under other people's brand names.
But as Huawei brand wouldn't be able to sell here.
Probably not, but obviously they're in this hemisphere because this executive who got arrested has a permanent house up there in Vancouver, so they're doing business somewhere.
Yeah. All right, Mike, that's all I got to say. Have a good rest of the show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. And yeah, I imagine there's just some good old-fashioned protectionism going on here, to protect Apple from how dare these other companies make better phones for less money. That's not the American way. Getting on back to domestic politics here, a new poll conducted by Optimus shows that the addition of Howard Schultz, he's the CEO of Starbucks, and he's thinking about running as an independent, and he could throw the election into disarray by drawing voters away from the Democratic candidates. So the poll ran head-to-head numbers against 4 major Democrat candidates, and in each scenario, Schultz pulled support away from the party to aid the president. And basically, Trump was leading everybody except Joe Biden, and that was by a narrow margin. And I imagine as we get closer to the election and Biden looks like a viable candidate, there's going to be, they'll be replaying all those creepy little child video things. And he does look really kind of creepy. Down in Texas, Representative Al Green wants to bring an impeachment vote against President Trump because of Governor Ralph Northam's past bigotry. I mean, that is how desperate they are to get Trump. Northam, by the way, happens to be a Democrat. But that's it. Democrat Al Green is saying impeach Trump for Ralph Northam's past bigotry. I'm looking over there at Capitol Hill, and to me, I almost get this image of a bunch of crazed rabid weasels scratching at each other. There's no more dignity left in that building here. Northam himself says he refuses to resign. He said Virginia needs someone that can heal. And again, on this issue of the blackface, it happened so long ago at a time when it wasn't considered that socially upsetting. But he then went on to make a huge, huge gaffe by referring to African slaves as indentured servants from Africa. And interviewer Gayle King interrupted him and said, no, we're talking about slavery here. So that was a big, big goof. All right, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. And this issue of blackness, it's getting, again, it's gone from irrelevant to absurd. And apparently Senator Kamala Harris, who's throwing her hat into the ring for 2020, confronted critics who have questioned her black heritage. Now, she does have black roots. The question is she black enough? I mean, that's literally what the critics are saying. Yeah, she's black, but she's not black enough. Boy, Martin Luther King lived and died in vain. We don't see the color of each other's character anymore. We're just looking for skin tone. Anyway, apparently her critics are upset that she chose to marry a white guy. Okay, as you know, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is out there with this Green New Deal and went through a little bit of an embarrassment over the weekend because there had been an outline of the deal put up on her website, and then it was taken down almost immediately thereafter. And then somebody tried to put on out that Republicans had hacked the website and put up this obviously very ridiculous document. But Ocasio-Cortez later said, no, this was a draft version that got uploaded. We have other draft versions. They're not ready to go. And that's what happened there. Now, this prompted Kurt Schlichter to come on out with an article over in townhall.com saying, how about a red, white, and blue New Deal? And he starts out with this wonderful little preface. He says, I know many Americans are chomping at the bit to turn our entire economy over to a bunch of coastal blue city hipsters and college professors, along with all of our money and our personal freedom, because of a dubious moral panic over future weather. But I'd like to suggest a better idea. I call it the Red, White, and Blue New Deal. It's a little different from the proposed Green New Deal that seems to benefit only virtue-signaling limo libs, crony capitalists, and aspiring commissars. The Red, White, and Blue New Deal would instead be directed at benefiting normal Americans. You know, those people who built our country, feed it, fuel it, and defend it. People like you and me. So here it is, all of it. Support your own darn self and leave me the heck alone. That's his Red, White, and Blue New Deal. Well, it's certainly going to be simplifying the bureaucracy to implement that one here. It's sort of what life was like back in the 1950s here. Okay, now Senator Amy Klobuchar has thrown her hat into the ring on 2020, and she was campaigning on global warming, which was a bit unfortunate because her speech was taking place in a blizzard in freezing near whiteout conditions up in Minnesota. And Trump, needless to say, couldn't resist poking fun at her on Twitter, saying she looked like a snow woman or a snow whatever gender it thinks it is. Story from Flopping Aces, and basically reminding us all that Russian dossier, the P dossier, was concocted to frame Trump, put all the media attention on him, and conceal the Clinton DNC Russian collusion, especially Uranium One. Just, we'll come up with this sensational tabloid accusation about the president, and nobody will be paying attention to where the real dirt was. But Christopher Steele was paid by the Clinton campaign and the DNC. He, in turn, paid Kremlin operatives for dirt on Trump, or maybe they just made it up because none of it's been confirmed. Steele shopped the dossier to numerous journalists in the summer of 2016, and he never actually went to Russia for any of the information that he claimed to be getting. Michael Isikoff wrote the Yahoo article based on the information fed to him by Steele. Sid Blumenthal fed information to Christopher Steele via Bruce Orr at the Obama State Department, and Alexander Downer is now tied directly to the Clintons. It's also very curious that Downer just happened to sit next to Papadopoulos at the very same London bar and strike up a conversation about Hillary's emails. So there's a lot of dark stuff going on. Now, William Barr, one reason why he probably will not be confirmed, is back in 2017, he said that the Department of Justice abdicated its responsibility by ignoring the Clinton Uranium One deal. There's a lot of hard evidence there. They had nothing on Russian collusion, but they just put all their focus on that. And Barr was saying back in 2017, he believed there was more basis to investigate Hillary Clinton for her alleged role in Uranium One than President Trump's purported collusion with the Russian government. And by the way, the Department of Justice is very big. They could have investigated both. It's not an either-or situation. So, anyway, getting into the economic news here, California's two remaining utilities are just one fire away from bankruptcy. And 2 weeks after California's PG&E filed for bankruptcy protection, which is its second bankruptcy in 20 years, Bloomberg is sounding the alarm that California's two other large electric utilities are just one wildfire away from bankruptcy filings of their own. A fact that was underscored last month when S&P slashed their credit ratings to near junk status. And apparently Governor Gavin Newsom doesn't seem to be doing anything to ease these anxieties, leaving large swaths of the largest state in the union. Well, that's not true. Leaving California without solvent utility companies, which could lead to massive rate hikes on California's already heavily taxed consumers. So, now this is kind of weird. This came out of DC Clothesline. As you know, there is a Trump supporter, Enrico Tarrio, and he had bank accounts at Chase Bank, or an account. Chase Bank has just closed it, and they don't have an excuse. They simply told him they would no longer service his account, and he had to move his money out by April 1st. It's a dangerous precedent when banks are now starting to get in on this deplatforming behavior. These are dark times. We are in a dictatorship. There's no question about it here. Meanwhile, over at Lloyd's Bank, they've been hit by more online banking woes. They're calling it intermittent issues when trying to log into the system. Apparently, the app services are working normally. It's just the desktops. Over in Italy, Salvini is calling for the elimination of Italy's central bank, the establishment of a public bank, and he's saying it's time to send fraudulent bankers to prison. that this idea that they can carry out some of these gargantuan frauds, stick the taxpayers with the losses, and then walk away after paying a wrist slap fine, that's got to stop. Salvini has also proposed seizing control of Italy's gold reserves from the central bank. And he said the gold is the property of the Italian people, not of anyone else. And I agree with that sentiment. I agree with that sentiment at all here. Let's talk about immigration and the refugees. There is a lot going on. According to Border Patrol officials, Central American migrant families are currently overwhelming the border. And apparently there's been a new surge of Central American migrant families, and the Border Patrol resources are getting thin. Apparently, agents have apprehended 60 large groups of migrants so far this year. So during all of fiscal year 2018, which ended on September 30th, Border Patrol agents only apprehended 13 large groups. So far this year, that number jumped to 60 large groups. That's an increase of nearly 70%. The problem is getting worse. According to Gallup, they're saying 5 million Latin Americans are planning to come to the United States in the next 12 months, and no, we're not talking legal immigration here. They're all going to step across the border and say, asylum, asylum. Most of them don't qualify. We were talking the other day about how the governor of New Mexico yanked the National Guard from their border with Mexico. Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom is going to do exactly the same. These are removing several hundred National Guard troops from the state's southern border. He's out there saying, you know, this is just a made-up crisis. There's no real illegal immigration crisis. Come on, we can't waste our time and money. They want that border open. They really do. Have you noticed how Congress is funding sanctuary cities while Americans are living in tent cities? The illegal immigrants and the refugees are getting a better deal from the United States government than the American taxpayer does. Now, a little bit of good news, a little bit of a small victory. A federal judge ruled Friday that she is not going to block the citizenship question on the 2020 census, supposedly on privacy grounds. But she said it could go forward. U.S. District Judge Dabney Friedrich declined to issue an injunction requested by a privacy and civil liberties group, the Electronic Privacy Information Center. And the group argued that the Census Bureau was required to complete a privacy impact assessment before Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross announced the addition of the question. Now, there are two sides to this issue. One is, I think we have to have a means to identify the citizenship of people who are in this country in order to clean up our election system and to basically deal with the fact that some of these people need to be sent back home. The other side of the issue is that if you read the Constitution, the census is authorized only to take account of how many people are in the various congressional districts or in the state in order to draw the congressional districts. And that's its only other purpose. It has no other constitutionally mandated purpose. Now, do you remember Brian Kolfage? He was the Purple Heart triple amputee who secured $20 million in GoFundMe donations to build the wall. Apparently was down at the Tucson International Airport, and the TSA just gave him a real good going over, grabbing up in his groin and up in his arm. I mean, what do they think they're going to find there? But I have a feeling there was a little bit of vindictive. I mean, the guy's a veteran. He's obviously crippled. He's not a threat to the airplane here. All right, we're going to take another break here for commercials, and we'll be back after these few words.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine. Great for heart palpitations. By Anne. Before I started using this product, every afternoon, my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc. I love this product. It really works. By Brad. Works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment getting
And aloha America, welcome back to our show here. And if you would like to help out RBN, and they do need your help, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number to make a credit or debit card donation or to pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during business hours, extension 3 at all other times. So getting on back to the news here, we're talking about immigration and globalism and so forth. Over in Hungary, I imagine right now Brussels is viewing Hungary with great alarm because nationalism and populism are very much on the rise there. And Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter, and I'm going to botch this up, Szijjártó, I think, has revealed that his government blames the European Union for the British people's vote for Brexit in 2016 and admitted it will inflict a huge blow to the bloc in economic and security terms. And apparently the issue comes on down to the fact that England was the second most powerful economy in the EU, and its loss will obviously have a major, major impact. And I imagine that Germany is going to start getting very, very restive about the burden of propping up the rest of the EU falling solely on them. I have to be very honest, I think the EU experiment is failing. I think they've reached the stage where everything that they do to try and hold it all together just makes problems worse. Okay, all right, that story is now outdated, so let's go. All right, let's get on to this whole blackface thing. And I mean, it's just being catapulted so over the top here. MSNBC regular Mark Thompson basically came on out saying blackface is a crime to black people, which could be on the par with the crime of rape. And Mark, I've told you 1,000 million billion trillion times, do not exaggerate. And I'm very alarmed that we're being conditized on so many levels, whether it's the blackface thing or LGBTQ issues or the rest of it. What's going on that we are not being told by the corporate media? And of course, in the independent media, we're trying to dig it out, trying to find out what's going on. But it's, I mean, when I turned on Fox News this morning, they had this little human interest story about 6-year-old kid always wanted to be a police officer. And so they had him all doled up in a police officer's uniform, and he had his own badge. And I don't think they gave him a gun, but I guess he says he identifies with being 26 years old. Over here in Hawaii, they're getting ready to do a bill that will increase the smoking age to 100. I'm not kidding you. It's not going to be immediate. It's going to be gradual. If the bill passes, the smoking age will go up first to 20, then the following year to 30, then the following year to 40, then the following year to 50, and so forth, maxing out at 100. Of course, long before then, tobacco products will be gone because there won't be enough customers to keep the businesses going out here on this little rock in the middle of the ocean here. Over in Arizona, one of their Republican lawmakers wants to declare porn a public health crisis, talking about porn's toxic effect on human behavior. And so he's introduced this bill that would declare pornography a public health crisis. I wish somebody would take a look at prescription psychiatric medication for its toxic effect on human behavior. By the way, out here in Hawaii, they've got another bill that they're working on that would impose a porn license. You're literally going to have to buy a license from the state of Hawaii, prove your age, pay a fee, of course, and then apparently there will be some locks on the internet system that will allow you to look at whatever it is you want to look at. But the state government, they get the piece of the action, There's too much free porn out there. We got to make money off of this somehow. Over in New York, Andrew Cuomo is still trying to defend his radical abortion law. He's out there saying, well, it doesn't run up to my religious beliefs. I was educated in religious schools. I'm a former altar boy. But he says, my Roman Catholic views are my personal values. The decisions I choose to make are based on, my personal moral and religious beliefs. But my oath of office is to the Constitution and the United States and the state of New York, and not the Catholic Church. So he's still trying to recover from that one. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing for the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go to the phones here to James in South Carolina. James, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I got a question about Fukushima.
Yes.
Can you notice the death of sea life around Hawaii? I mean, some people say that the whole Northern Pacific is dying. Do you notice that kind of thing?
I don't really spend that much time out on the ocean. I don't even do that much beach combing. I mean, Claire and I were going to try and get out with the metal detector last weekend, but that didn't happen. I know that our markets are still full of seafood, which is locally produced. I wouldn't eat any of it. But in any event, it cannot help but have a negative effect, all that radioactivity. And to say the ocean is dying, how quickly. And by the way, Fukushima isn't the only problem. I mean, there's all kinds of toxic runoff from coastlines, effluvia coming from shipping, things like that. So there are a lot of assaults on the ocean, the big garbage patch. We're not good stewards of planet Earth. I mean, that much is obvious.
But it would seem, though, that if the radioactivity keeps dumping in for years, and there doesn't look like there's any stop to it, is there some kind of natural filter that inhibits the killing the oceans, or do you know anything about that?
Unfortunately not. I mean, these isotopes are heavy and they tend to sinter down into the silt, but with enough wave and tide action, they're still going to get slowly moved, up and down the coast and around the borders of the ocean. The real problem, though, is the contamination of fish, because especially fish that feed on the bottom, like crabs, they'll ingest these particles. Other fish just swimming by will ingest them as well. And the problem is that a tuna that is contaminated off the coast of Fukushima is just as contaminated off the coast of San Diego. And by the way, they have in fact confirmed game fish, food fish taken off of San Diego are carrying radioisotopes traceable back to Fukushima. They say it's really minuscule, it's really small, but I'm one of those people who thinks there's no such thing as a safe level of radiation. It's a mess. I mean, it's the world's worst nuclear disaster, and they can't fix it, is what it comes down to. So the corporate media pretends it doesn't exist.
Wouldn't you think if the United Nations was worthwhile, that they could step in and at least make an attempt to do something? I mean, there should be an international attempt to control this some way, but I don't hear anything about it if there is.
Well, no, there isn't, because they've run out of ideas. I mean, they thought they could store the water. They thought they could build a processing plant that would clean the water up and leave behind this radioactive muck to be buried. That didn't work. The ice wall didn't work. They've run out of ideas. And at this point, as far as I can tell, they've pretty much quit trying.
Well, it looks like to me if you got Nobel Prize winners and everything else, they could have a conclave somewhere and at least come up with doing something would be better than nothing, it seems to me.
I'm sure that probably among nuclear physicists and energy people, this is probably cocktail party discussion on a regular basis. And maybe somebody will come up with an idea. But unfortunately, this is not like Chernobyl, where Chernobyl was in the middle of this flat field and they could just build a shield over it to contain it. We're talking about Fukushima is right on the coast of the Pacific Ocean, and the radiation is just pouring on in, and it's even coming out from underneath through the sand on the beach.
Okay, well, I got another little quick thing. Do you know anything about how the Supreme Court counts its votes? I heard there was a vote the other day, and it was 5-4. That meant that Ginsburg's vote was counted. Do you have to be present in a room to get your vote counted? Do you mail it in? Do you know anything about that?
The last I heard was that Ginsburg was supposedly working from home, and I know a lot of people are concerned about it. Actually, I thought the Supreme Court was in recess.
Well, there was some kind of vote that came out. It was 5-4 vote. That's what I heard. Maybe that's wrong, but I heard it Friday.
Okay, I thought.
Okay, well, maybe that's wrong.
Yeah, if you could hunt that down for me and send it on in, because to the best of my knowledge, the Supreme Court is currently in recess, and it's being hailed as an opportunity for Ruth Bader Ginsburg to rest and heal and get better. But a lot of people are starting to wonder if, in point of fact, Trump is going to get the opportunity to nominate a second Supreme Court justice.
Thank you, Michael. Enjoy
All right,
your
thanks
show.
an awful lot. We're going to let you go. Okay, getting on back to the topic of abortion. Story coming on out from Chimp Planet. Planned Parenthood has a plan to expand abortion to 40 weeks in all 50 states. So it turns out all of this abortion up to the time of birth is coming from Planned Parenthood. And we know they donated a lot of money to that guy in Virginia who was trying to push that bill, which fortunately that one died in committee. They donated. They donate to anybody who pushed their agenda. But that apparently is their stated goal. It's a 3-part initiative called Care for All, and they want to expand abortion access and lessen restrictions across the country. Now, the part that really offends people about the law that was passed in New York and the one that was considered in Virginia and the one that may still pass in Vermont was this idea that if the baby survived the abortion attempt and were born alive, you could go ahead and kill it. Well, some people are a little bit upset with that. And apparently, the GOP is reviving a bill called the Born Alive Survivors Act. Now, Representative Marsha Blackburn is the sponsor of the bill. It was introduced in December 2017. It's been sitting there all this time. And the idea of this bill would be that if a baby survives an attempted abortion and is born alive, it is a person, and killing it would be murder. And on that one, I heartily agree. There's a comment in here about how all of a sudden Democrats have this radically callous position about life. Yeah, they do. All right, we're going to take another phone call. Jim in Chicago, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Michael, you weren't quite sure about the Supreme Court being in session. They were in session last week, and it was a 5-4 decision that went toward the liberals, thanks to John Roberts. It was a case where in Louisiana, they passed a bill, and the bill was where any doctor that does an abortion, they have to be affiliated with a regular hospital. So that went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court stated a doctor does not have to be affiliated with a hospital, and that was 5-4 in the vote. I have it. John Roberts went with the 4 liberals, so that's why that bill was failed in Louisiana.
Okay. All right. So I guess Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Do we know that she was there, or did she basically work from home?
That's something that was never brought up, but I'm pretty sure if you Google the information, you can find more about it. But it did happen last week.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. Okay. We're going to let you go. All righty. Yeah. One of the other things that I don't like about the New York abortion law is it allows practitioners to do abortions. And it's almost like the Democrats are declaring a genocide on the natural American citizens at the same time illegal immigrants and refugees pour over the border. They're trying to demographically change this country into something that they can more easily control. Because as real Americans, we're a real pain. We think too much. We ask too many questions. All righty. Okay, now, as you know, there's gun control already being pushed in the House of Representatives, and Steve Scalise, who was a shooting survivor, says Representative Doug Collins asked Democrats to let Scalise give testimony before the House Judiciary Committee. They told him no. Now, Scalise has decided to make public the testimony he would have given, testimony that explains why universal background checks will not reduce gun violence or make Americans safer. And the Democrats don't care about making Americans safer, or they wouldn't be passing all these abortion laws. They just want to make themselves safer. Yet another attack on our Second Amendment rights is HB 5700 in Connecticut. State Representative Jillian Gilchrist is basically talking about a 50% tax increase on ammunition. There's another state that wants to pass a law saying you can only have 20 bullets a month. Now that's completely impractical. Certainly for anybody who's fouling, bird hunting, or just trying to build up their proficiency. 20 bullets a month, that's ridiculous. Alrighty, story coming out of Information Clearinghouse, and it's talking about this incident that happened back in Houston, Texas on January 28th, where these home invaders murdered 58-year-old Regina Nicholas and 59-year-old Dennis Tuttle, and basically Tuttle wounded 5 of the numerous armed burglars before being slain. That's not how the news accounts put it, of course, because it was the Houston Police Department that did a no-knock raid, kicked down the door, and walked on in. And according to the chief of police, you know, it's all proper, and Acevedo says his offers did announce themselves as Houston police officers while simultaneously breaching the front door. Well, let me ask you a couple of questions. First of all, if you've got a wooden door that is being shattered with one of those big hammers, can you hear what's being said behind it, especially if the guy is wearing some kind of a gas mask? I'm not really sure about that. And you know what's going to happen with all of this? You know, with this, if they shout police, then just sit down and let them break into your home. The real criminals are going to do that. They'll get some uniforms. They'll get one of those big hammers. They'll come up to your house and they'll say, police. They'll knock down your door. You surrender your gun, and they proceed to take everything that you've got. It's a poorly thought out approach. We need to go back to a world of due process. Besides which, looking at the age of this couple, why was a no-knock raid needed at all? Why not just come up and knock on the door and say, we have a search warrant to serve? Also in Houston, Texas, apparently there was this homeowner whose home was invaded by 5 home invaders, and he basically drove them off, shot them with an AK-47 with a 30-round clip, validating that law-abiding citizens have a legitimate right and a legitimate need to have such weapons. So he was facing these multiple armed intruders, and both sides were firing. 5 suspects ended up being shot. At least 3 deaths were reported. Remember, they say that when seconds count, police are just minutes away. Dealing with these armed intruders coming into his home, he didn't have time to wait for 911. So I know it's probably going to be very difficult for him to live with what happened. But I'm glad he came out of it okay. And again, it does illustrate that American citizens, law-abiding American citizens, do have a legitimate need and a right to have that kind of a weapon to defend their homes. Okay, apparently Bayer has announced that farmers in France and Germany are digging up thousands of hectares of rapeseed fields after traces of genetically modified organisms, which were banned for cultivation in those countries, were found in seeds sold by the company. Now, was Bayer just being careless or reckless, or are we looking at GMO contamination going global? Because that's always been a big issue. GMO is spreading. It contaminates other plants, including natural native species. That's been a big problem for the Seed Vault project. You know, they've got this big building up above the Arctic Circle, and they have people who go around the world trying to gather seeds or acorns or bulbs of these species in their pure natural form. And occasionally they'll find plants are already contaminated with GMO. Scientists went up into some of the highest mountains in Mexico looking for original maize, which is the original name of corn. That was contaminated. And we still don't know what the long-term effects, the effects of long-term exposure are here. Down at Twitter, apparently they've locked Daily Caller's IEC's account over traumatizing Learn to Code tweet. And apparently this was just tweeting Learn to Code at an unfunny joke made by The Daily Show. Somehow the Daily Show writers thought it was funny to tweet an 8-second clip noting an asymmetrical background when Vice President Pence stood up behind Trump during Tuesday's State of the Union address while White House Speaker Pelosi remained seated. So Twitter's out there. Actually, Twitter is not doing very good. In fact, there's an article on whatreallyhappened.com showing their earnings, their growth. They're in negative growth right now. In fact, Twitter is doing so badly, it no longer reports the number of active users using the system. They may be on their way out because nobody likes censors. Nobody likes dictators and tyrants. Over at Facebook, there's been another little bit of oversensitivity to the liberalism here. Apparently, there is this Alaska Native artist, and he makes and sells objects out of sea otter fur. And the Sealaska Heritage Institute and Republican U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan issued a statement last week urging Facebook to restore the posts by Tlingit artist Robert Miller. Now, Miller's posts advertise a sea otter fur hat for sale that's been removed from the site. The sea otter is legally harvested, and the leather is properly processed. Facebook issued an apology Saturday, but has not yet returned the posts. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
February is Heart Month. Every year for the month of February, to show our appreciation to Extendivite's faithful customers, we have a sale. If you would like to try Extendivite, now is the time to get a few months ahead and really give Extendivite the time to show you how it works. Most of Extendivite's long-term customers wait for this sale to stock up. People and doctors tell us about the unbelievable improvements that they have experienced in their overall health, not just the heart. Extendivite wants you to experience the power of these herbs. Get a 4-month supply for only $115 for either the capsules or tincture. Please take advantage of this once per year sale and get healthy for life. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. So Apple and Google have raised a few eyebrows. In fact, they've drawn some criticism for accepting a Saudi Arabian smartphone app on their platforms, which allow men to track women's movements and stop them from leaving the country. Now, according to Insider, this app, which is named Absher, and it's available at Google's Play Store and Apple's App Store, is a government web service which allows men to specify when and how women can cross Saudi borders and to get close to real-time SMS updates when they travel. And somehow this doesn't seem to be too upsetting to those liberal gatekeepers over there in Silicon Valley here. Now, Russia is getting ready to conduct a test of temporarily disconnecting from the internet. And it's basically a planned experiment to gather insight and provide feedback and modifications to a proposed law introduced in the Russian parliament December of last year. Now, the law mandates that Russian internet providers should ensure the independence of the Russian internet space in the case of foreign aggression, to disconnect the country from the rest of the internet. In other words, they basically want to isolate Russia's internet from the rest of the world. And in addition, Russian telecom firms would also have to install technical means to reroute all Russian internet traffic to exchange points approved of or managed by Roskomnadzor, which is the telecom watchdog. So they're expecting there to be cyber war along with everything else that's going on here. I mentioned this earlier in the show, but we're getting a confirmation of it now. During the storm that we had over the weekend, we recorded the lowest snow accumulation at 6,200 feet in Poli Poli State Recreation Area, Maui. And yeah, it was cold. I mean, the temperatures were low. We actually had temperatures down in the high 50s, which I know for you people struggling with snow shovels right now is no big deal. But for us here in Hawaii, I mean, we had to like go rummaging around trying to find long pants and jackets that we haven't used in years. The folks at Claris Church were saying they have never felt it this cold ever in their lives. So it really was cold. And it's still cold. It's getting a little better. But as you can see, I'm in my long pants and I got my jacket out and, you know, just trying to keep from freezing. I'm too acclimated to the tropics here. Anyway, there is a second major Pacific Northwest snowstorm coming in. These poor people are not even going to have time to dig out from the last one. And apparently they've got over a foot of snow in many parts of the Pacific Northwest. And they're looking at 3 feet of total accumulation through tomorrow. So that's out there. Apparently heavy snow slams Washington and Oregon, triggering major travel disruptions. This is the biggest snowstorm since February of 2017. And we got to take a break for station identification. We'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. We're talking about human-caused global warming. Insert ominous music there. The temperature in Canada's Saskatoon has plunged to the lowest in over a century. Broke a 112-year record at minus 34.8 degrees Celsius. Now that is cold. Seattle is having their snowiest February in 70 years, and there's more coming on in. So you've got snow, ice, shivering cold, blasting normally mild cities from Seattle to Las Vegas to San Francisco. Winter weather is sweeping across the U.S. Gosh darn that Puxatawny Phil, I think he was wrong. I think he got it wrong. Spring isn't here yet. So apparently snow catches Palmdale residents off guard. I imagine that's not something they're used to seeing out there. And snow in San Francisco. It's all over the place here. Hokkaido, Japan, freezes in record cold spell. Large snowfall expected in Tokyo and the surroundings. Incredible record cold in Montana. And apparently there was this little celebration in Moscow called the Polar Walk. And the Polar Walk is part of the National Safe Routes to School program. And apparently that was the coldest polar walk that they've ever done. Well, change the name to the Tropical Walk and maybe things will get a little bit better here. Saskatchewan smashes cold record during extreme weather snap. And apparently their temperature statistics go all the way back to the 1880s. So yeah, it's cold out there. It's cold out there. Record cold grips Weyburn, and again, the cold is forcing Environment and Climate Change Canada to issue an extreme cold warning early Thursday morning. Okay, and they're talking about, yes, we're now getting a second blast of Arctic air coming on down that's going to blast the central U.S. and revive winter in the east. And yes, that second storm is also going on into the east here. And you have to look at all of this and realize that all of this nonsense about human-caused global warming is just that. And all the corporate media reports that are out there trying to say, oh, well, we've got record high temperatures here and we've got scientific charts here. You know, they're trying to keep this thing alive because it's part of a larger agenda to get you to surrender more of your money, as if you actually had any left, and to submit your freedom to a global environmental authority. That's what this has really been all about, extracting money and obedience from you. Apparently, there was a situation up in Mendocino where a couple literally got stranded in the snow in their Jeep. The snow was so deep, they got stuck in a Jeep. Fortunately, some other people on snowmobiles decided to go on out and look for them because, the family had been making inquiries. But they were stranded in the snow for 5 days in their Jeep. And it's a Jeep Wrangler, and they couldn't get it out of there. This one's a little more colorful. Over in Russia, a snowed-in Russian driver had to be rescued by a camel. And it was a 4x4 off-road vehicle, and apparently in the video, there's a tractor seen on the roadside, which apparently failed to dig out the car. But they got this camel, hooked it up to the 4x4, and dragged it on out. So there's being creative. I wonder what the camel is thinking about all that snow here. Okay. Residents digging out of snow after 4 days of winter advisory. This is up in Bullock Pines. Okay. Guy named Hal Lewis, University of California, Santa Barbara, and he's writing a letter to Curtis Gallen, the president of the American Physical Society, and it's about global warming. And he's basically saying, he's resigning from the society and saying global warming is a $1 trillion scam which has unfortunately corrupted a great many scientists. And in his letter, he says, when I first joined the American Physical Society 67 years ago, it was much smaller, much gentler, and as yet uncorrupted by the money flood, a threat against which Dwight Eisenhower warned a half-century ago. Indeed, the choice of physics as a profession was then a guarantor of a life of poverty and abstinence. It was World War II that changed all that. The prospects of worldly gain drove few physicists. And then he goes on to basically saying that, yeah, as the money starts coming in from politicians, scientists got greedy. And they were willing to sell out their science in exchange for funding and media attention. Anyway, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. And by the way, the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Have you heard of the Boiling Water Challenge? Okay, it's basically something where in situations of intense cold, you get a pan of boiling water and you throw it up in the air and it instantly flash freezes to snow. There's only one problem. You have to make sure you're throwing it downwind of you, because over in Chicago, apparently 53 ended up in Chicago hospital burn units. I'm sorry, that was the age. 8 people aged 3 to 53 tried doing the boiling water challenge, and they must have thrown the water upwind, and it basically blew back on their face. All right, moving on to other stories. We've been talking about this typhus outbreak that's over in Los Angeles. Typhus, of course, is carried by fleas. The fleas are carried by the rats. The rats are having a real good time because there's a veritable smorgasbord of garbage all over the place. And it's not just confined to areas like Skid Row and the homeless areas. It's in City Hall. And there's lots of rats in City Hall. And at the latest word is apparently City Hall may have to remove all of their carpets. There's a motion filed by Council President Herb Wesson saying that this has to be cleaned up and that there has been a noticeable increase in rodents in the area. Not the ones in suits, the other kind, the four-legged one. Okay. And apparently Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez provided a KTL video showing rats running through City Hall offices, and staffers could be heard shrieking in the background. Okay. Now, let's do something here. Okay. All right, here's another story. This came out from Your Destination Now. Apparently down in the Southern Baptist Convention, they have their own sex scandal. An investigation reveals 700 victims of Southern Baptist sexual abuse over 20 years. And I'm commenting on this for all of you who say I only pick on the Catholics, because I don't. But apparently it's been a big problem. The San Antonio Express News and Houston Chronicle put together their own list because the leaders of the Southern Baptist Convention have declined for more than a decade to create a list of sexual predators from affiliated churches. And so they're basically put out an article, Abuse of Faith. And the cases tracked by the newspapers affected more than 700 victims, and the stories are wrenching. And I know this permeates virtually every religion. It's especially prevalent among the Catholics because of their celibacy. But I can't understand how somebody could stand there and claim to represent the face of the supreme moral authority on earth and then turn around and behave that way. It's like, don't you guys practice what you preach? Don't you believe in what you claim to believe? Really quite ugly here. Okay. Apparently, U.S. colleges raised $46.7 billion in the 12 months through June of last year, the 9th straight record year, as the lengthy bull market for stocks helped spur contributions. So these universities are making money hand over fist. The tuitions are going up way out of line with the rates of inflation, and yet college kids are still having to get student loans. Apparently out in California now, a lot of kids going to college are voluntarily choosing to live out of their cars to keep costs down. And what's really ugly is that unless there is a major change in the way our industrial base is organized, there aren't going to be any high-paying jobs for these kids to get when they come out of college. College has become just another scam in a nation of scammers. Over at the White House, remember there was that big stink a while back where Trump was ticking off what he called executive time. In other words, time where he just wanted to do what he wanted to do. And our normal popular perception of presidents is that they work long hours and that they have a lot to do in very, very busy, full schedules. But apparently, somebody leaked from inside the White House that about half of Trump's days are unstructured executive time. The White House is trying to find out who did that leak. But apparently the leak has surfaced again to say it's still going on. Now this would, if true, because I'm not 100% sure it's true, but it would dovetail with my comments about Trump being a weak leader and not really being involved. And with that other story where somebody said, Trump doesn't read reports. He just has people come on in and give him a brief précis and then makes his choices based on that, which gives the person giving the précis the chance to sort of spin its content and its meaning to suit their own agenda. That's not how to be an executive, a good president. You got to read the material for yourself. Remember when Nancy Pelosi was out there with Obamacare, we have to pass it before we can see what's in it? What kind of nonsense was that? Anyway. Oh, now Cindy McCain is still trying to recover from a little bit of a faux pas where she was apparently at this airport and she spotted this couple. There was an older woman and a younger child of two different races. And so basically she did a little bit of impromptu profiling, and she reported this family to the authorities. Now, Cindy McCain described the event, which happened at Sky Harbor International Airport. And she says, the very same thing happened to me at the Phoenix airport last Friday. I came in from a trip I'd been on, and I spotted it. Looked odd. It was a woman of a different ethnicity than the child, this little toddler she had, and something didn't click with me. I tell people, trust your gut. I went to the police and told them what I saw, and then went over and questioned her, and by God, she was trafficking that kid. And the radio host said, no way, a toddler? Cindy McCain said, yep, a toddler. She was waiting for the guy who bought the child to get off the airplane. All of it was a complete fabrication. The police investigated. They found absolutely nothing wrong. And she had absolutely no basis to make the allegation that the woman was trafficking the child and that some guy was there to buy it. Anyway, we're going to take a phone call from Al in Canada. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. I was just laughing at your last topic there. Just to backtrack a little bit, if we could, this boiling water challenge. What's the purpose of that exactly?
Oh, it's just a stunt. It's just a stunt, if you want to call it. It's a physics demonstration. But when you have really cold sub-zero weather, you can take a pan of boiling water and just fling it up into the air, and it will flash freeze into snow.
Oh, well, because I've heard like people say that you can freeze boiling water or hot water faster than you can freeze cold water, which is absolute bull.
Yeah, my mother used to believe that one as well.
Yeah, I think I just looked it up because I couldn't remember. Anyway, it takes 8.34 BTUs of heat to raise 1 gallon of water 1 degree. That's a constant. Under normal atmospheric conditions. So I mean, the reverse is true. So this idea that you can do these crazy things. I mean, why would anybody want to do that? I mean, that's insane. People have to be absolutely devoid of an education to do something like that. It's like eating the Tide Pods.
They make a video of it. They're a YouTube star. I mean, go to YouTube and run a search for boiling. Yeah, I mean, people will do all kinds of really crazy things to get on YouTube and get a video.
Oh my goodness.
Some of them can be really dumb and dangerous, but hey, it's their chance at stardom.
That is, well, I don't know about stardom, but yeah, that's kind of crazy. People would the extent that people will go just to be so silly. And then that lady you were just talking about, did you say Cynthia McCain?
Cindy McCain.
Cindy McCain, yeah. Yeah, she's a real piece of work. See, there's a classic example of another idiot because she can't just seem to mind her own business, can she?
No, she can't.
What's wrong with people?
She stuck her nose in with this family who weren't doing anything wrong, and then she tried to make herself a hero about it on the radio, and then it basically blew up in her face.
Why can't those people that she was basically, it's harassment. It is harassment. It's the same as what you were describing earlier when the no knock. What do you call that? No knock what?
The no knock raid.
That's not a no knock raid. What that is an infringement of people's privacy, and it's actually bordering on abuse, and it actually is abuse.
Yeah, it is abuse.
Nothing
For
like
one
that
thing,
should ever
they're
happen.
causing property damage. I mean, they're just kicking down your door, and it is. It's completely inappropriate. It's completely unconstitutional. But that's the country we live in today.
Yeah, you had that little list from that Scottish fella of where we, the progression of what happens to countries, and we are in full on apathy right now because no one cares. No one just seems to care anymore. We're heading into bondage at a ferocious rate, at a ferocious pitch, and no one cares. Look at all the like you said, like all the deplatforming.
Yep.
It's not deep, and I hate that word, deplatforming. It's pure and utter censorship.
That's right.
You might as well just walk up to someone and just stick a piece of duct tape on their face.
Yeah. Well,
right?
Yeah, and obviously there's a great deal of psych war effort going on to try and keep the American people docile and under control, and unfortunately, it does seem to be working. But my concern is, if they bring back the military draft, we're going to see the American people wake up at that point.
Well, you would hope so. Maybe not, though. Up here in Canada, just to change the subject again, you were talking about illegal immigrants and how they get treated better in the United States than American citizens. Mike, it happens up here too. Those Syrian refugees that were taken in, and all of these people that are taken in, they're given about 40,000 Canadian dollars a year.
Jeez.
And they're put up in hotels. Like, we're not far from where I live. 2 brand new hotels went up. And guess who's in them? These refugees.
And who's paying for it?
Illegal immigrants. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Paying through the nose.
And how many Canadians are living in tent cities?
Well, I don't know about that, but I know the poverty rate in Canada is, well, it's obviously increasing, just like it is in the United States. But, you know, they're doing all the wrong things. I mean, the last government we had in Ontario,
Okay, Al.
like, basically
Al?
pushed up to bankruptcy.
Al, I got to put you on hold. Don't go away. I'm going to bring
Okay,
you
thanks.
right back after these few words.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443, 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Al in Canada. And yeah, it does seem like, well, here's my perception. My perception is that a large majority of Americans have twigged to the fact that something has gone very horribly wrong with this country. And I think out of a misplaced sense of patriotism or politeness or just concern that peers around them might not agree, they stay silent. But I think it would be a mistake to confuse that silence with consent or even approval, because there have been times in history where countries have been in pretty much the same circumstances and all of a sudden it blows up. England under Charles I, France under Louis XVI, Ceausescu, Mussolini, so forth and so on. I mean, look at what's going on in France with the yellow vests. I mean, they're just everywhere, and the corporate media does not want you paying attention to that because it might give you serfs uppity little ideas.
Yep, exactly. They've had enough.
Yeah.
They have absolutely had enough in that country, and you know, I don't blame them. I mean, when you have a leader of a country that puts out, like, it's one thing what Donald Trump does with his tweets. It's another thing to tweet out to those fleeing persecution, terror, and war. Canadians will welcome you regardless of your faith. Diversity is our strength. That's an open invitation. And this persecution from terror and war, if I wasn't mistaken, Canada sells Saudi Arabia armaments.
Yes.
What is Saudi Arabia doing right now? I mean, Canada is meddling in another country right now as we speak, which is Venezuela. So, like, it's the hypocrisy is so blatant now. They don't even try and hide it. You know, they just think they won, and we're going to sit back. It's like I said about that Alex Fraser Tyler, I think his name was, Sir Alex. You know, we're at the second to the last year. Apathy to dependence. Like, we're basically, what are all these socialists wanting to do? They want to make the population dependent on the government, which is, you know, a hair away from bondage. People don't understand that. I don't understand why. You know,
well, I understand.
I want to take care of myself.
Yeah, I'm that way too. That's the way I was raised, you know, back in New England. And at the same time, of course, being in Republican country, you know, we were hearing about how other countries were being mismanaged, and particularly the Soviet Union. And I recognize now that a lot of what we were being told about the Soviet Union was less than truthful, but some of it was, specifically the way the people were economically constrained, and were not in control of their own lives. And I remember reading 1984 at a very young age, and just saying, wow, you know, this could actually really happen. And it does seem like we're living so much of that right now. TVs that watch us, you know, constant surveillance.
When I went to high school, Mike, it was mandatory to read that book in English. Obviously, it's not anymore.
Nope.
Because now they're using it as a how-to manual.
Yes,
but,
absolutely.
You know, something's got to give here, and I'm hoping, you know, that yellow vest thing just catches on and goes worldwide and goes ballistic. Because I shudder to think of the direction we're heading in.
Well, I think where the yellow vest movement is going in France is it's showing that a significant part of the population is ready to just basically sit down and unplug from the current system. And that's its real message. I know there have been people setting up guillotines and all the rest of that. I certainly hope we're not going to see that sort of thing come back. But basically, people are saying, we're unplugging. You know, this system does not work for us. We're unplugging. The system works for the ultra-rich. It's working for the bankers. It's working for the migrants. It's working for the war machine. It does not work for us, and we're just calling off the deal.
Yeah, it's a raw deal, is what it is.
Yeah,
raw
it is. It is.
Anyway, you know, I don't. Well, we'll just see what happens, I guess. You know, there's that apathy again. But hey, at least I'm listening to you, Mike. You know,
well,
I've been
thank you
listening to you for a
thank
long
you for
time.
doing that.
I appreciate it.
And you know, spread the word about the radio show. Spread the word about the website. You know, share what you learn here with everybody else. You know, but as I approach my next birthday, I do find myself looking back at life and the world as it was when I was young, and I get shocked. I get absolutely shocked, and it just, wow, how ever did this happen? And it's kind of sad because the country...
All those pot smoking hippies, Mike.
No,
they had kids. And now
I
their
don't
kids
think it
are
was the
dependent.
pot smoking hippies. I was.
Well, now their kids are dependent on Ritalin and stuff.
Yeah. Well, that was profits for the pharmaceutical companies. Thanks for the call.
Thanks, Mike.
We'll be right back after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And I want to step on back to this Kamala Harris thing where she says she's proud of being black. She doesn't call herself African American. She has called herself black. The reason for the kerfuffle in the media is, once again, we have somebody who is not exactly as presented. It turns out that her parents are Indian American and Jamaican American. So, tempest in a teacup. I'm getting sick and tired of hearing about, whether you're black, white, green, gray, peach, taupe, mauve, plaid, and what your genetic heritage is. Other than that, if you are running for president of the United States of America, you be of the requisite age and be a natural-born U.S. citizen, those being the requirements. Here's where I'm really concerned. We're seeing all of this corporate media focus on who's blacker, who's whiter, and everything, and they're not asking the questions they should be asking of potential candidates. I mean, the Democratic field is just filling on up. And we're already at the stage where it's time to have some shakeout. And it's time for corporate media to actually start doing their job and asking some tough questions about how these candidates feel about immigration, how they feel about the economy, how they feel about the wars. Do they have any plans for fixing the infrastructure? Do they have any concrete plans? And more importantly, how are they going to do it? Because we've got people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who are out there spouting all kinds of wild ideas that sound good in a media soundbite, but have obviously, clearly not been thought all the way through. She's got no way of financing all this stuff that she wants to do. I remember during the primary campaign, during the election, the midterm elections, after she'd won her primary, and she was out there saying, we're going to have this and we're going to have that. And her interviewer said, how are you going to pay for it all? And she says, oh, we'll just pay for it. Okay, how will you pay for it? Well, we'll just pay for it. I mean, there's an issue. And it almost seems like our current crop of political candidates have gone so totally into image over substance that there's no substance left at all. It's like they're turning into vampires, and with a flash of light, they'll just wisp away here. And apparently, down in Virginia, that Fairfax thing is kicking up again. Apparently, some of his staffers are now starting to resign. The lieutenant governor's law firm has put him on leave. And this is over things that happened decades ago at a time when it just wasn't that important. And now, of course, they're going back through old TV shows to look for anything that might be insensitive. We're losing touch with the present day, with this obsession of finding things in the past to complain about and whine about and cry about. The liberals can't find enough to complain about in the here and now. Oh, let's go look through the old videotapes and the old films. I'm sure I'll find something. I remember when they basically removed Song of the South from circulation. Now, when it was made, it was considered, basically an entertainment. It won awards. And in our new whining, crying age, everybody's offended by something. How can a society function efficiently if everybody's always pointing fingers and screaming and crying? And the answer is you can't. We need to get back to a world of common sense, of saying, we have to go back to sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hear me. It's impossible to have freedom of speech and not offend somebody somewhere, especially in a society where so many people value their self-worth based on how many things they can find to complain about in a day. They're walking around the shopping malls there. They got the little smartphone calculator out and saying, well, I've only found 4 things to be offended by today. I've got to get working. I got to get working. And we have to stop feeding this as well. If somebody comes up and says, I'm offended, fine, be offended. I don't care. I don't have the energy for it anymore. Just go be offended someplace else. Alrighty, so let's see, what else do we have here? Okay. Major poll shows Trump's approval rating keeps getting higher and higher. And that, I'm sure, is going to be upsetting to the Democrats, where the current poll is showing that right now Biden is the only Democrat who can beat Donald Trump. Of course, again, it is still a long, long way to the 2020 election. And again, I think it's somewhat bothersome that only last November we had the midterms, and here we are February, and already we're into candidates declaring, and the polls are running. It's like political campaigning has become an almost 24-hour a day, 365 day a year obsession, and it's distracting us from so many other things. I agree with those countries where there's actually a legal limit to how many months before the election you can run a political campaign, because there has to be time for other things like taking care of your family and homeschooling, various things like that. And I hope the Trump numbers are accurate, but we know that Trump numbers very often are not. Okay, apparently over in Nevada, there is a plan to criminalize private gun sales, like they recently did up in Washington State. And the idea would be that if you have a gun that you wish to sell and somebody wants to buy it, you have to both go down to a licensed firearm dealer and go through all the paperwork and the background checks, which is a big headache. And of course, the dealer gets his uplift for all of his trouble. So it costs more money here. Getting on back to the midterm elections here, apparently this was the most expensive midterm election ever. Special interests poured billions and billions of dollars. I'm starting to sound like Carl Sagan. Billions and billions of dollars into the midterm election, just wafting off across the universe. And it's all these special interest groups who want control over you. They want to buy themselves a politician, put that politician in office, and use that politician to rule over you. We're not a democracy anymore. We're not even a republic. We're an oligarchy. So, it's ugly here. Okay. Apparently over in Chicago, the public schools there are monitoring social media for signs of violence and gang membership. This is at the public school level. We're talking about K-12. I mean, shades of Minority Report. And I will agree, there seems to be a bit of an issue where kids do seem a lot wilder, and I think part of it is social, entertainment, corporate media, selling a different set of values and behavior expectations for kids. I think a lot of it has to do with all these medications they're being given for their depression and their ADHD. I think a big part of it is being disconnected from their own parents, so the parents don't have an opportunity to impose some kind of discipline. We are an empire in decline. There's no question about it. As we mentioned earlier in the show, you can see it just from our economy. Our economy is in decline. China's economy is growing. China's a manufacturing powerhouse. We are not. We've basically expended what was left of the nation's wealth on this military campaign. And yes, the U.S. government can go on printing up new money, or rather the Federal Reserve can print up more money to take to the defense contractors, but they certainly are not going to be able to spend it overseas for much needed supplies, because right now the U.S. military-industrial complex can't make everything it needs inside our country. They're still buying a lot from overseas. I still think back to that HBO series, The Newsroom, and the first episode, and that great speech by Will McAvoy about why America is not the greatest nation on earth anymore. And he hit pretty much all the salient points. And I remember when America really was great, when we were going to the moon and we were inventing new technology that the world had never seen before. So anyway. All right, apparently there's a new threat out there for those of you with computers. Apparently hackers are using social engineering to devise ever more clever ways to try and get you to click on a button or surrender a name and a password. And I think I mentioned yesterday this one where supposedly you've received an electronic fax, and to preview the fax you press this button and that downloads the malware. Another one that I keep getting all the time is from my email provider saying your account has been temporarily suspended because of questionable activity. Press this button to reactivate. And you press the button and your account is compromised. And it's very angering seeing how many scammers are out there. And it's very frustrating to learn that there actually is no law against writing computer malware. And I'd like to know what bright person came up with that one. So you have to be very skeptical, have to be very careful about what you open, what links you click. And yes, you're going to have to spend your money on anti-malware, antivirus, stuff that you wouldn't need if it were not for the fact that the government has totally dropped the ball on computer crime unless it affects some large corporation or the government itself. As far as you ordinary Americans, you're fair game. You're fair game. Alrighty. Russia is out there saying they're never going to make decisions by orders from Washington, because Washington apparently issued a very firm demand that Russia stay out of Venezuela, and Russia is saying no, they will defend Venezuela. So here we are risking yet again a direct military confrontation with Russia and possibly China over somebody else's oil fields. All right, we're going to take a phone call now from Mark in North Carolina. Aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, what's on my mind is, well, one of the things, a lot of things on my mind, but is that veteran, I was treated at the airport by the total sexual assault
that was
unit.
Shameful. That was absolutely shameful. You know,
these degenerates, these perverts. But you know what, Mike? This shows you with we got to protect our troops. We got to do this. We got to support our troops. They don't care one bit about our troops. The one human being right now running for president that has any kind of military experience, okay, Tulsi Gabbard, is being treated like crap by the mainstream media. Both sides, by the way. The Fox side, well, the Fox sides are just ignoring her, and the others are treating her like she's a Russian agent or something like that.
Oh,
okay?
yeah, they're already out there saying, oh, yes, Tulsi's tangled in with the Russians. And it's utterly absurd. But, for that issue about the U.S. government, support our troops, support our veterans, everything. Well, to support the troops when they're on their way over to do the killing. But after they're done and they're no longer useful, they get abandoned. And you just look at the VA hospitals to see that, or you look at all the homeless veterans that are in our streets. If you're going to have money to hand out to people like refugees, why not the homeless veterans first? Well, because the refugees serve an agenda and the homeless veterans do not.
Mike, I'm going to tell you something. I think, first of all, more and more vets, more and more military personnel today are seeing what's going on, and they don't have the morale to go to these wars anymore. And we're going to find out, God forbid, the next war we get into, or if things heat up anymore in Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan, or if, God forbid, we decide to attack Venezuela. The other thing is, forget about Russia or China. All bets are off there. But I think that they're going to have to turn to a draft. They cannot get. I don't believe they're getting the people they want to get into the military now. And once that happens, this country is going to be torn apart. It's going to make the '60s look like Sunday school picnic,
like the '50s.
They're not going to. Young people are not going to go for this. A lot more informed than when I was a kid. I wasn't informed like this. I didn't have the internet. It was something unknown to me. Okay, right now you want to find out information. All you got to do is a tap of the keys or something on your phone, and you can find out pretty much all you want. Or you watch YouTube. They can't. By the way, they get all the algorithms that they do on YouTube. they can't cover anything up, because if you're looking for something and you know what you want, it'll show up there. Because that's how I do it. Since I got rid of the cable TV, I got my Apple TV now, Apple TV app. I got my YouTube. I watch YouTube on my 44-inch screen. It's great. I get any kind, all the news I want. I can get it from RT. I can get it from InfoWars. Even though they try to block InfoWars, people are still bringing it out to YouTube. I get it from you, of course. I get it from any place I want. I get it to Duran, you know. So they can't stop it anymore. They're desperate, but they can't. Short of trying to, and what I'm hoping is at some point, somebody like McAfee maybe uniting with that guy in Australia, the German guy, the fat German guy from Australia, wasn't it? Kim.com.
Yes.
They get together and create a new kind of an internet or something like that, where the government has no say, and the big tech companies have no say at all, and we can do what we want. So, you know, they're not going to stop us, Mike. It's got to stop, and God forbid they get us into another war. Trump is too stupid to understand this. He's really too dumb, I think, to understand it. He has no clue what he's doing, and I'm afraid that, you know, he just might get us into a war after all. Whether it's going to be Iran listening to his boss Netanyahu, or if it's going to be Venezuela.
All right, Mark, Mark, we got to take a break for commercial. Stay on the line. I'm going to come back to you. I want to finish up on that topic.
Okay.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
When all this twisted steel was did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program today. We're still talking with Mark in North Carolina. And Mark, if that story about Trump ticking off executive time, that he's basically working 4 or 5 hour day, if that's true, that's sending an image of a president who's just kind of disconnected from the job. And he's going to stand up. He's going to have his time on camera. He's going to go on out and make public appearances. But he's clearly letting Mike Pompeo and John Bolton run our foreign policy. And again, he's proving to be a weak leader.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. He's letting those two clowns run foreign policy. Maybe let Mike Pence do some of it too. He thinks he can just delegate authority, and he's not doing anything. And he tweets a bunch of nonsense. But the fact of the matter is, he acts when he tweets like he's not really the president, like he's complaining about what he's the boss. He can take charge, run that Justice Department the way he should. You don't put another Bushite in there like he's doing now with this guy Barr. This guy's a fly ball. What's the sense of getting rid of Sessions when you're going to put somebody even worse? And the same thing with the FBI, which I call the new American SS.
Well, in Trump's defense, it's not like you're going to find anybody anywhere inside that beltway who is not, corrupt and connected to previous administrations. And that's why when Trump first came on, I think Trump should have gone outside the beltway. There are people out here in the real world, in the country, who they have the job skills to do the job that's necessary. But Washington, D.C. operates on political connection and feeding of information. And Trump apparently got sucked into just going along saying, oh, I have to have people who are insiders, who've got the contacts, who know how to make things done. And that may have been his rationale.
Mike, he had a guy working on his campaign with him, Sheriff David Clark.
Yes.
Who's a constitutional sheriff, a constitutional peace officer. I'm not talking about a guy he believes in this country's its constitution, the Second Amendment, and all that. He could have appointed him as the FBI chief. He wouldn't be in the situation he is now. Why get rid of Comey when you're going to put somebody just as bad or worse from the same clique there? That guy Robert Ray, also one of these Justice Department shysters. Why not put a true constitutional peace officer like the Dave Clark in there? The man just doesn't do anything right. He just doesn't know. He either doesn't know what he's doing. He's afraid. I don't know what the problem is. Maybe he just out and out lied to us. But this guy is, all I can say is bad news. I'm not all these Trump bots who think that he's going to that he's playing 4D chess. You know who knows how to play 4D chess and judo? Is Vladimir Putin. He knows how to use his enemy's strength just like he does in judo, and he knows how to play chess, and he does the four. Trump doesn't know what he's doing, period. He's not playing 4D chess. He's messing up.
He's getting bad advice. And he's a disappointment. Anyway, Mark, there's the music. Need to let you go here. I need to get out of here and do the Jim Goddard show. Please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of wonderful things to share with you. Please take what you learn here and at the website, share with everybody that you know. We need to keep getting this information out to the public. We need to get the truth out there. These are very, very dangerous, dark times. And we need to keep the people informed so that they can make good choices. So, have yourself a lovely evening. We'll be back tomorrow, and aloha, America.